All right. Well, Notre Dame baseball, of course, had a historic season last year. They ended a 20-year College World Series drought, made it to Omaha for the first time since 2002. And one of the key cogs on that team is with us right now. Brooks Coetzee from the Fighting Irish baseball team is a graduate student now. How you doing today, Brooks?
I'm doing all right. As I mentioned earlier, just finished up last classes ever.
Can't beat that. That means final exams are on the way. So good luck on that, I guess.
Thank you.
First of all, just around the corner. But yeah, let's start with Omaha, I guess. It's been nearly a year now since you guys were out there at the College World Series. So as you kind of reflect back on it right now, what are maybe some of the standout things that come to mind first for you?
Uh, in regards to Omaha last year and the team that we have this year, it's the intensity that we still have. It's the expectation to win, and I think we were kind of trying to find our identity. And Coach Stiffler mentioned that we were kind of a team with a new coaching staff trying to find the identity. But I think we've kind of started to fit into roles and starting to find our identity as of late.
How does that that's obviously a transition, and of course, Link Jarrett, your head coach from a year ago, left after the College World Series. You get a new head coach, so I imagine you've still got kind of like some of the gleam from that trip to the College World Series in your eyes and in your heart and all that kind of stuff. So, what are the maybe that initial transition? What's that like for a team that just had the experience that you guys experienced last year?
I think the key thing is the experience that the guys bring back because we're bringing back what three guys that were key parts to that trip, and knowing what it takes and working along with the coaching staff and giving our input. They also know what it takes, and I think that's kind of the big things is just working together as a unit.
You kind of deflected there a little bit when I asked you about the College World Series. Do you sort of compartmentalize that now? Like, do you get not too caught up in sort of the nostalgia of that whole thing now? Because obviously you do have sort of a mission that you're on here, right now at the end of what's a 5-year college baseball career.
Yeah, and you kind of touched on it. It happened in the past. It's a memory. It's what happened last year. It happened last year. It The baseball world doesn't owe us anything to make it back to Omaha. We have to earn that right. And just because we went last year doesn't mean anything.
Well, I think when you look at what you did 2 years ago for starters. Like
Mhm.
you're on the verge. You're one win away from going to the College World Series. You're down there in Starkville, Mississippi against Mississippi State, and they end up, winning the national championship. They get there, and again, you guys are one win away from being there yourselves. What was that like kind of being home, seeing them go on to accomplish what they accomplished, and how does that motivate you then going into the following season? And then you can kind of roll that into this year as well, the motivation that you have coming out of the experience that you had.
Yeah, that super regional at Starkville it was one of a kind. And I think I've been blessed to play at some of the best spots in college baseball. But just that year, coming up a game short, I'm going to be honest with you, I didn't even turn on the College World Series. And I think a lot of us did.
I
It
bet.
left a bad taste in our mouth. And then coming up short at the World Series, finally getting to that stage, it's kind of trying to hit that next point. And kind of the next point for us and the expectations for us is to win it all. And I think that's kind of how we've grown as a program and as a unit, is just trying to check those boxes and trying to get to the next step in Notre Dame baseball.
How much does it, like, when you're coming off either one of those experiences, Starkville 2 years ago or College World Series last year, when you get back on campus that next fall, I have to imagine that just like the way you approach those first workouts have to be different maybe than even the year before. Was it a lot different, coming off those experiences?
Yeah, and with those experience too, you're throwing a coaching change in there, and I think a lot of guys are trying to prove themselves, trying to be a part of a team that makes it to that point. And like I said, it's just that hunger and bad taste in your mouth that never really goes away. And I think everybody is trying to work hard, and so you never have to get that experience again.
I haven't had the experience of being to either Starkville or Knoxville, and of course, Knoxville is where you guys beat Tennessee in the Super Regional last year to get to Omaha. Like Starkville just seems like I've heard from like some of the old guard, like the 2002 crew who was there in their regionals before that, just the environment down there. And it sounds like both of those environments are just like nothing that you could really ever imagine in college baseball. How would you compare the two?
Well, they call it Stark Vegas for a reason. That place
Right.
that place is one of a kind, and I was playing right field in both spots, and Starkville gave me the hardest time out of both of those because
Really?
they had fat heads of me and my girlfriend with Tanner Allen's face over my face, and it was college baseball to as it should be. And Tennessee, it was very passionate fans who really get behind their team and haven't really had a program like that in a while, so they were excited for that opportunity. But I think Carter Putz got the butt of that, the worst of that experience. But Starkville, I think, was the highest attendance in what regional or super regional history,
I think
and
so, yeah.
cowbells constantly, and it was just deafening. And I think out of those two experiences, from an atmosphere standpoint, Starkville is probably number one. But being able to beat a team on their home field for being the number one overall team, the favorites, I think that kind of plays a little bit of bias in there for me.
That's what like again, hearing some of those old tales from the old guys about going to Starkville in Mississippi State, it seems like the experience you experience with the fans is, pretty. There's a common thread throughout the years, but at the same time, it sounds like they kind of have some, like you said, the bobbleheads or the blown up heads of you and your girlfriend and stuff like that. It seems like they have some fun with it anyway, as much as they might be on you during the game.
Yeah, and if it's going well for them too, I mean, it's a little less vulgar, but if it's going bad for them,
Right.
you can't hide it, you can't ignore it. But it's college kids going at it.
I'm curious that when you guys won the Super Regional in Knoxville last year, I talked to Paul Maneri afterwards. Of course, the head coach of the 2002 team, and he talked about how seeing that banner that you guys, their 2002 banner that you guys were waving around out there, really got him emotional seeing that. And I remember asking Link Jarrett sort of like what's, like how the banner got there, where the banner had been, all these different things. And he didn't really know, like, so do you know who brought the banner and like where, who had it before that trip to Knoxville? Any of that backstory with the banner?
I honestly don't know how it ended up there, but I do remember it was always I think it's been passed down generation to generation because I remember seeing it on campus my freshman year, then sophomore year, just at the older guys' apartments and stuff like that. So it's always been around the baseball like family. But who packed it and who got remembered to bring it, I'm still out of the loop on that.
That's still top secret. That's what like some of the guys had said that they had heard that, like someone found it in storage at some point, maybe a few years after they had stopped flying it over X Stadium. And, like there's always, I think like a senior group of guys, 4 or 5 guys lived together, and they thought maybe the seniors had, the senior house had passed it along. But,
I think so. Yeah.
I don't know how much of that is like, wives' tale or what's truth, what's
I
fiction.
think it's one of those rumors. The less you know, the more interesting it gets. It all.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Well, you know, you are now you mentioned that you're part of a group of experience, and you're a graduate student. You're getting ready to finish your 5th year here at Notre Dame, and Carter Putz, Zach Preisner, and Zach Siska, part of that group as well of 5th year guys who decided to come back. What made you decide to come back for one more year?
I think for me, ultimately, Notre Dame played a big part of that, getting another degree from a university like this. And from the baseball side of things, we as a group felt that it was kind of like unfinished business. And college baseball is a grind, and you want to go through that grind with people that you love and people who you're close with. And us as a group have been through the ringer. We've been through 3 coaching changes. We've been
Right.
through below 500 seasons, trip to the World Series. I don't know if you want to go to war with anybody else. And I think that was a big part for most of us.
Did you ever, some of your teammates did enter the transfer portal after the off season. Did you ever think about that, finishing someplace else, or was it always Notre Dame or nothing?
I was going to finish my baseball journey here. I didn't even look at the portal, didn't even think about the portal. I wanted to have all my 5 years here.
We talked about Link Jarrett and the coaching change, and of course, you guys faced him for the first time last weekend. He's, of course, the head coach at his alma mater, Florida State now, and you guys took 2 out of 3 games in that series last weekend. What was that like, seeing him on the other side for the first time after 3 years here?
I mean, it was unique. It's the first time I've been in that situation, and just seeing him over there, and we bought in so heavy to his culture and the way he went about playing baseball, and we kind of knew what to expect from that standpoint because we knew that he was going to try to do that with Florida State. And just hearing the verbiage again and the stuff that he would be screaming from the dugout, we knew what he was trying to do, and nothing was really going to surprise us from that standpoint. But it was kind of, I don't know, it wasn't – good memories came up when you see somebody like that across the dugout. And because,
Sure. Like
I said, college baseball is a grind, and that was somebody that was with you on that grind. So it wasn't bad blood, wasn't anything like that. It was good to see him, and I wish him nothing but the best of luck.
It's interesting because talking to him in his time here, he always talked about, especially in the those early days when he first took over, about teaching you guys a new system and a new offensive system. And he talked about it could be a complicated system. And I really don't think that you hear baseball coaches, talk that, like football, basketball, they obviously have different systems. Like what was it like? How would you describe sort of going from where you were to the system that he had, and how different is it now with the kind of stuff that you guys do?
I think for Coach Link, his system was just a foundation of how he expected baseball to be played. And I think we fit that mold really well, and he saw that, and he took advantage of that. So that could be like more motion on the bases and just how we approach our at-bats and stuff like that. And that kind of set the foundation for most of us with the new coaches. We had that foundation, and it really isn't that much different. It's just the verbiage that's being used. But the big difference from this year is kind of the freedom that we're allowed to play with. It's not really being stuck to a system. And I think that's the only real difference from that. It's still the game of baseball. You still got to score more runs than the other team. But other than that, Coach Link really expected it to be done a certain way, and we bought into that.
Could you tell, because, again, like he always talked about sort of his pre-scouting and the way that they would attack hitters and vice versa. Like, was there a difference facing Florida State and having him over there compared to facing some other teams and coaches that you faced throughout the season?
I jokingly told our pitching coach this fall that's the toughest fall I've had, because I've had Coach Ristano call the pitches against me for 4 falls now. And,
right.
I mean, you don't want to think about that tendencies, but it kind of just felt like a fall ball game with Coach Ristano calling the pitches at some point.
Well, you guys fared pretty well,
Yeah.
Even if it was fall, but especially from a long ball situation, you guys fared pretty well last weekend.
We did. And like I said, it's just the familiarity might have been an advantage to us.
How much, again, I realize it's one series, but it is Florida State, and there is that connection how much did it mean to you guys to be able to win that series last weekend?
It meant a lot. And it was kind of one of those things. It was nothing personal, but they were kind of standing in the way of the goals that we had, because where they're at in their season, they're kind of just trying to play the spoiler. And that's nothing to do with the coaching staff or anything. It's just where they're at in their season and where we're at in our season. And if we want to play postseason ball, we had to win that series. And that's kind of the approach we took to that.
And that, I would imagine, because it is May now, and as you know, people who follow college baseball know May is an important month. This is where it's on now, and you've got a couple conference series left. You're sitting in pretty good position in your division in the conference, and of course the ACC tournament coming up. I imagine that there has to be a different kind of focus every time you guys take the field right now with the NCAA tournament in mind.
Yeah, it definitely does. And we kind of, Coach Robbins mentioned earlier in the year, we used all our mulligans. At this point of the year, every at bat counts, every game counts, every pitch counts. And that's kind of the approach that we have to take going throughout this year.
You know, we've talked a little bit about Link Jarrett. We haven't talked as much about your new coach, Shawn Stiffler, other than you said, you know, there's maybe a little bit more freedom to do what you do. Like what's maybe something that people wouldn't know about Coach Stiffler that you take note of maybe on a daily basis?
Something that's really stood out to me, and it's just his want and intensity around the baseball field. He's a super intense guy. He loves being blue collar. Like, it's kind of a different coach than I've been around, and I kind of buy into that. I'm kind of the same person, so him and I get along pretty well. But another thing that stands out is he really cares about us as people. Like, he comes up and asks us, like, tries to be a non-baseball coach at times. He tries to connect with us personally, as opposed to just being the head honcho.
Sure. Now I'm curious. You've kind of been a, not maybe even kind of, you've been a baseball magnet this year. Like you've been hit by pitch 26 times after being hit 30 times in your 4 years previously combined coming into this season. So you know, I'm curious. Did you just wake up one day and decide that you were willing to wear the baseball a little bit, or like where did all this come from this year?
Well, part of it's Coach Stiffler. That's kind of one of the main goals of our culture is if they're going to pitch inside, we're not going to move our feet. And buying into that and knowing where the holes in my swing are, is people are going to attack me in hard. And so if I don't give up that ground like I have in the previous years, that's going to increase my chance to touch first base. And I mean, I'll take it. I love that part of the game. I love being on first and threatening. So I'm not going to get out of the way anytime soon.
What's what's the best or the worst bruise, I guess, that you've got out of this whole thing?
Oh, just from this season, um, there's a couple that have hit my hammy just right and my quad, and it gives me a little bit of a dead leg. And it doesn't matter how much adrenaline I got. It takes a couple days to go away.
Well, I mean, the game that stands out is obviously the St. Joe's game where you're hit 4 times, and then the 4th time the bases are loaded. It's the 9th inning, and it ends. It's a tie game, and it's a walk-off hit by pitch. Had you ever had a walk-off hit by pitch before in your life?
I have not, and I've never been hit that many times in my life. But it was kind of funny going. The pitcher was missing up and in the entire time, and then as I was standing on the front steps, like one of my teammates we kind of expected me to get hit that at bat and to walk it off, and then bases got loaded. I'm like, this game's going to be over here soon, and then just it hit me.
Are you aware of where you are, like in terms of the record books and all that kind of stuff right
I
now?
know I'm 11 away from tying all time, and I think I'm leading right now for the season.
Yeah, the guy who holds the Notre Dame record, Brett Lilly.
106.
Yeah, that's right. And he literally had a strategy, like getting to see his games. He was more, like your typical pesky, leadoff type guy.
Mhm.
That's where, he would hit up at the top of the order. But he had, like based on what the count was, he would move around in the box, and he was, very, very willing, you
Yeah.
know, to, sounds like the same kind of attitude that you had. Like, do you have a specific strategy, or is it just as simple as you said before? Don't move your feet, and if it comes, it comes.
Early in a count, I feel that way, but as soon as I get to 2 strikes, I try to take the decision making of the umpire out of it. I'm gonna either swing and get on, or I get on the dish. And if they want to try and pitch inside, they don't really have a lot of space to do that. So that's the only real adjustment I have to try to kind of scare them away from throwing inside.
All right, we'll see. I mean, I imagine the pace that you're on right now, there's not many weekends you go without being hit probably at least twice, are there?
No, there's not. At the beginning of the year, I was on pace for I was 2 a game, but
I was gonna say it
I
slowed down there for a
yeah,
little while, but it picked back up again, I
yeah.
think. So when you look at this thing now again, with the NCAA tournament set to begin here in about a month, Memorial Day weekend, conference tournaments, and all that stuff, and Selection Monday is really just around the corner. As a fifth year guy, what would it mean to you to be back in the NCAA tournament again?
I mean, that's why we came back. That's why I came back. It's an expectation, but you also know it's not a given. That's just the season wouldn't be a disappointment if that doesn't happen, but that's kind of how the goal of all of us fifth years is for that to be the next step in this season.
Absolutely. All right. Now you started off. You didn't want to get nostalgic. Can you give me one Omaha memory, one memory from the College World Series?
Uh, Texas, Texas, that first game, just the 3 outfielders getting together after we secured the final out, doing our side bump that we do after every game, and realizing that we just won a game in the World Series.
That's a pretty good one. How did it feel hitting a home run in Omaha against Texas A&M?
That was that's also another one, but we
Like,
lost that game. But
yeah, that's true. Did your body go like? Did your arms go numb? Did your body go numb? Anything? Like any of those kind of out of body experiences when you hit that?
I didn't even. Yeah, I just kind of because it was a new reliever, and he throws a ball the first pitch, and then I just kind of I didn't I blacked out that entire moment. I don't even remember hitting the ball. I don't remember running the bases. I didn't realize where the pitch was or what the pitch was until I saw it on video. So that's is one of those blackout moments that I wouldn't trade for the world.
All right. Awesome. Brooks Coetzee from the Notre Dame baseball team. Good luck against NC State this weekend. And of course, good luck the rest of the season. We'll hopefully see you guys in the NCAA tournament here in about a month.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right. Absolutely. Take care.
You too.